and gentlemen, it's time for Big Will Spotlight. We're going to discuss movies the Oscars don't care about. We're going to discuss movies that you care about. So go ahead, get yourself something to eat. Get yourself something to drink. Sit back and relax with your popcorn and your date as we go to Big Will Spotlight with your hosts, Big Will, Dr. Quack, and the important one, Mr. Mayhem. And we're recording.
All right, everybody, welcome back to another edition of Big Will Spotlight. With me today, I've got some of the most important people to me.
The important one, Mr. Mayhem, that's right. My best friend for over 20 years, and also joining us here, he is one of the experts here. We've asked for people. He reached out to us because he's an expert on Star Wars and Star Trek. Mark Adams, also known as the storyteller. Mark, thanks for joining us.
Yes, welcome. Thanks for being the only person to comment on my comment section. But because of that, hey, if y'all don't want to make some comments, give us something to talk about, guess what? We're going to talk about what we want, and we're going to talk even longer.
All right, then.
Talking about Star Wars versus Star Trek. Which was the better series? Which had the better movies? Which is more entertaining? And we're also going to analyze kind of the positives and negatives of both.
All right.
So get us started, man.
Get us started. All right. Well, I asked y'all for some comments. Didn't get a whole lot, so I'm just going to put it out there with, hey, which ones did we like better, Star Trek or Star Wars? Hey, I couldn't find my Star Wars shirt, sorry. I'm a Star Wars fan. I mean, not to throw anything bad against Star Trek or anything like that, but I just believe Star Wars had better storyline. It followed several different stories all at the same time, and it just all blended together. And we're just gonna. How did you feel about it?
Well, I enjoyed both series, and in the beginning, you're right. The first few movies really focus on Kirk more than they did anything else as far as the Star Trek series, but they started branching out later on. But the Star Wars, I felt, was a better, more well-rounded because they did better at telling you about their universe. It was a better story on the standpoint of you understood what those planets were. You understood the difference between the rebels and the Empire. You understood the political structure and the climate and all that stuff. Star Trek really didn't explain except the USS Enterprise and the Klingons in the first few movies. Yeah. So I think Star Wars because it told a more rounded story. But a storyteller, I'm sure, has a different opinion.
I'm going to have to go. When I was younger, I was all about the Star Wars, man. I'd seen the movies. Most of them, I saw them in the theaters. In fact, I believe A New Hope was one of the first movies I ever saw in a theater, and I was like 2. So there will always be that nostalgia there for me. But as I've gotten older, I feel myself gravitating more towards Star Trek. You know, it's more mature themes. I'm more of a fan of the series, like, you know, Next Generation, Voyager, Deep Space Nine, the original series, as opposed to the movies, although the movies are good in Star Trek. It's just, I don't know, fits a more mature aesthetic, I guess. So, and I'm not too happy with Disney's adaptations of things, although I will give them credit. The Mandalorian, the Book of Boba Fett, some of the upcoming television series look promising, you know, but once you start politicizing your political views in your movie and you try to be woke, it kind of fade out. So, you know, Star Wars will always hold a special place in my heart for nostalgic reasons, but I think the better storytelling, the better long game goes to Star Trek, in my opinion.
Okay. But real quick, disclaimer, hey, there's probably going to be some spoilers in here. So if you don't want to know anything about The Mandalorian or the Book of Boba Fett, hey, Stop right now. Come back to us later.
Right. And hearing what you say, Mark, you're right. Star Trek definitely is the more adult theme, especially when you look at like 4 on 5, where the 4, they went back in time for reasons of environmental concerns because of the long-reaching effects. They told that in a well-told way. They didn't hit you over the head of save the planet, save the planet, save the planet. But they still gave you a compelling reason why you should consider it. So that is a good point of that it is a more adult, more learned style of storytelling. That is a very, very good point.
All right. I mean, I'm not trying to take any of it away. I mean, I believe that the way that Star Trek ends up portraying it, I think that's where the world needs to try and get to. I don't want to try to bring the politics into this. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it's just, hey, there needs to be a one world. There needs to be, if we all come together, hey, we could probably get out there in space and sooner than if we're going to keep fighting each other.
And that's also another point. I think in some ways Star Trek is a little too dreamy-eyed in the standpoint of they think that's going to happen. Some of the stuff they say will happen, like humans are competitive by nature. And when you compete with yourself, it usually is very boring. People compete with each other. And I think the utopian world, we try and better ourselves by competing with ourselves, is a little impractical, but it's a good concept and something to strive towards.
Yeah, Star Trek's always been about an ideal. Star Wars was more of a, a fairy tale set in space. And they're both good. They both... Yeah. So, people want to bunch together sci-fi, fantasy, and really and truly they're separate things except for Star Wars. That's, in my opinion, that's one of the true forms of science fiction / fantasy. Star Trek is more scientific in things, although there are some hand-waving things that they try to get away with, and especially with like the characters of Q or these higher beings and stuff. But in a way, Star Trek is kind of like Lord of the Rings set in space. I know Gene Roddenberry was influenced by Tolkien, and so obviously, what are Vulcans but elves? What are Klingons but orcs? So it's just interesting to see how they portrayed the things the way they did.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. So then the TV series, I haven't had a chance to watch them. I'm not paying Disney Plus's price.
You can't watch Star Trek on Disney Plus anyway.
It's the Star Wars. Excuse me.
I thought you said,
If I said Star Trek, I apologize. Star Wars. I have not seen The Mandalorian or the books of Boba Fett. So I'll defer to you two guys on this one, and I'll start the question. The TV series that are being told, and I'll include even Attack of the Clones, the cartoon series for the Star Wars people. Does Star Trek have a better TV story, or does Star Wars?
I believe Star Trek has more single-minded shows, whereas with what they're doing with Star Wars is it's a extremely long movie.
Okay.
I mean, you have to keep. It's why people are binging now. It rolls right into the next one.
Okay. What do you think, Mark?
As far as the TV series go, I mean, if for picking sides, I'd have to give it to Star Trek, because that's what they started out as.
Yeah.
As far as cohesive storytelling, it wasn't until really Deep Space Nine that they started telling, serial type stories. They were just kind of mostly self-contained, episodes that there was really not a lot of crossover. So as far as cohesive storytelling, for the most part, I'd have to give it to Star Wars as far as the TV series are concerned, because it's more, the Mandalorian or Boba Fett, central characters, not a cast of characters per se.
Okay. All right. And with that part, we got coming up on our first commercial break. So take a few moments and we got to pay some bills so we can talk more to you guys. And we're back.
Yes, welcome back.
Yeah, we're thank our sponsor there, Crystal Infinity. They helped us do this, where we get to talk about great movies with our man Mark Adams, storyteller.
Yes.
We're talking about Star Wars versus Star Trek.
All right, so now with how we started the show and everything like that, first episode that we did with covering over Star Wars and everything like that, basically we were just telling people on what order to go watch it. Didn't really get into storylines and everything like that.
Right.
Whereas when I did Star Trek, I kind of went over the storylines of each movie. But they went in a specific order. You didn't have to worry about that.
Right.
So let's talk about Star Wars.
Okay. So we kind of brought up that you should watch A New Hope first, then watch Empire Strikes Back, and then watch Rogue One to get the central nexus for your story to understand the Star Wars universe. If you start off with The Phantom Menace, well, The Phantom Menace was far more visually pleasing than A New Hope. You lose when the third movie's done, you think the series is over, versus A New Hope, you know there's more going on. So what's your thought process on this order of the Star Wars movies? How would you explain it to someone who hasn't seen them, how to watch them?
As far as, I think everybody should watch them in the order that they were released, and then go back and watch them congruently. I don't know. That's just the way I did it, so that's the way I'm familiar with it.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, the prequels are more visually stunning because the technology was there for, there to be completely CGI characters, or, a lot of green screen based shots in the movie. Whereas opposed to, the original series, it was more practical effects. It was all practical effects because that's all they had. So
give it up to Frank Oz for bringing Yoda alive.
Oh yeah,
definitely,
indeed. Also the voice of Miss Piggy, if you didn't know.
and many other things. Frank Oz and Jim Henson, they gave you the Muppets.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
But yeah, I mean, if you were to go and just watch Phantom Menace right off the bat, I mean, you weren't looking forward to what could possibly be next, and you might have stopped.
Because Phantom Menace really didn't let you know there was much more coming up if you weren't familiar with Star Wars.
I mean, Phantom Menace, I don't know if they expected for it to not do as well. It's kind of the wrong way to say it. They kind of ended it where it could have ended, but they left it open so that they could come out with the other ones.
Well, in that sense, it's kind of like Act 1 of the whole story. So, Vader's fall to the dark side, the middle part is his eventual redemption. And then the third act is, the Force moving on after the story of Anakin and all that.
Yes.
Right. Which is a good storytelling, and that's a good way to look at it as well. That
he's known as the storyteller.
Well, of course, he understands the 3-act, and normally the 3-act, if you're going around a central villain, doesn't end in Act 2. Usually, you have some kind of resolution to finish Act 3, and they did put it here in Act 2, his redemption, but they gave you a new villain at the same time to continue for that final resolution, which is interesting storytelling in and of itself. So now that we've kind of covered that a little bit, you say, I like your idea of watching the first time as they came out and then repiece the story together.
Yeah.
So I want to ask one more point to you. Did Han Solo shoot first?
Oh, yes.
Mm-hmm.
He shot first.
Yeah. I know this because I spent with the VCR and the pause button because there was that debate amongst my circle of friends. And I had a VHS from like early 80s. And we Han shot first. It wasn't until Lucas had to go make him feel better that he changed it.
Yep, I fully agree with that. So now with the same thought process. So the first set of Star Wars movies, 1 through 6 versus 7, 8, 9, and 10. Which of those are better in your guys' opinions? I know
the Disney
mine.
Ones versus the Lucas ones?
No, Star Trek. The originals versus the Next Generation.
He did say Star Wars. He's getting them confused here. So
My apologies.
Star Trek. Oh God! Like I was pointing out earlier, I mean, the first 3 almost centered on Kirk. I mean, yes, you did know Spock and their names and stuff like that. It was kind of centralized on him. It was following him. Then when they did 4, I mean, 4, like I pointed out when I talked about it, 4 is my favorite one. They brought humor into it, and I mean, future people trying to live in, well, at the time, our age. It just made for a great show. 5 kind of went back to being out there, but I'm not saying it didn't do any good. It still it followed everybody. It started to follow everybody.
Okay.
So I got that the first set of Star Wars out of the way. I mean, the new ones yes, you ended up having the Next Generation crew. Mm-hmm. That was really long TV episodes to me. I mean, they were good. I watched the Next Generation, so I mean, it didn't hurt anything. But then with the new ones come out, I mean, with J.J. Abrams taking the helm on these, I mean, he's like he'd be the science fiction guru of today, pretty much is what it boils down to.
All righty. So what do you think, Mark?
As far as the original cast movies, the first one was kind of it's kind of hard to watch. The second one, I love Wrath of Khan. There's some very iconic movies from that movie, some very iconic moments from that movie. Excuse me. And it's probably my favorite of the original cast. Although I did like Search for Spock. Fourth one, fifth one kind of lost it for me. I know that was personally y'all's favorite, but I don't know. Go back in time to rescue some whales. I don't know. When I watched it, it struck me as silly. As far as the Next Generation movies, my favorite personally is Insurrection, which has kind of been panned as one of the worst ones, but I liked it because it felt more like a, self-contained episode. You go help out this indigenous species who's is being taken over by the, bad guy type thing. It was just felt more of it wasn't trying too hard, and it felt more fun, I guess, in a way. I really liked the J.J. Abrams Kelvin timeline, kind of the reimagining of Kirk. That one line where Spock and Kirk are standing before Admiral Pike, and he's like, "Are you giving me attitude?" And then Spock says, "I'm expressing many attitudes simultaneously."
Yes.
All right. Yeah. I was going to say we got another commercial coming up, and then I'll get mine. We'll take the commercial.
Coming this fall to Heart and Souls Promotions.
And we're back from our sponsorship here. It's time for me to give my opinion really quick on the movies.
All right.
I'm agreeing with you, Mark. Wrath of Khan was the best episode because that's of all 6 of them, with the exception of the Undiscovered Country. That's the one where Kirk was in the most trouble. Which, if you watch the show, he never really was in that much trouble. Khan put him in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
I liked Search for Spock. I thought it was decent. I liked the more, not so much the Save the Whales of episode 4, but the going back in time. Like you said, the history they added in where, Spock, the hell I didn't. The hell you say. The hell is that? That was actually really, really funny to watch him deadpan that.
Yeah.
But I liked what they tried to do with Insurrection. I just didn't feel it was very well executed. But you're right. It was the best example of a self-contained longer episode. But I actually liked the one where they went back and First Contact with the Borg redoing Earth.
Yeah.
Now, the J.J. Abrams ones, I'm going to pivot off of that and go, you say J.J. Abrams is kind of the science fiction guy. He did the last 3 movies of Star Wars. He's doing the Star Trek series. But what would you think of Bryan Singer, who did a lot of the X-Men movies? Do you think he would have done a good job if he would have been involved in either one of these series? Which one, maybe one or the other? Or
well, now you're kind of leading into where we're going to go next when this series would be DC versus Marvel.
Yeah.
You catch up on your DC versus Marvel, because we're gonna talk about those directors and everything like that.
Right, but I want to prequel it by: do you think they would have helped the Star Wars or the Star Trek series or not, and why?
Well, you're catching me unprepared. I didn't get any homework on Mark Singer yet.
Bryan Singer.
Oh, Bryan Singer. Okay. Mark Singer. Go watch Beastmaster. There we go. That's who that is. Okay, Bryan Singer, I don't know which ones he actually did, so I couldn't comment on it at this very moment.
Okay. So, Mark, what do you think on that?
He did the original X-Men movies, right?
He did the first 3, and he did First Class.
Okay. Huh. Yeah.
Because Bryan Singer is known as a really good storyteller as well, and really good at bringing the most out of an actor. So that's why I thought J.J. Abrams is kind of the standard bearer. He's this generation's version of George Lucas or Steven Spielberg. He's kind of taken on that new role. And do you think Bryan Singer could be part of that? That's kind of where I was leading towards.
Okay.
I think he would do well with he's got a proven track record that he's able to handle these kind of, high budget films with, more unrealistic themes. I tell you who I would have liked to have seen direct either a Star Wars or a Star Trek movie is Blomkamp, the guy who directed District 9 and Cappy and his name eludes me, but I always thought he would have been interesting to see what he came up with.
His take on it, yeah.
All right.
So we're gonna get into the spoilers.
All right.
Okay. Stuff that you haven't even seen. So, okay. Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett. No, you haven't seen it. You catching up with it? You on time with it?
I haven't had a chance to watch Book of Boba Fett. Saw most of Mandalorian.
Okay.
So,
all right. Well, don't really know where Disney's trying to take these series because Mandalorian went through and was just basically the story of the Mandalorian. Well, we got the Book of Boba Fett. So how it is Boba Fett, ends up escaping the pit monster. Sarlacc. There we go. Hey, with some Star Wars nerds. Yes. So he gets out of there. He ends up getting picked up by the Sand People and, gets made better, learns how to be a part of a family instead of, hey, I'm the son of a clone,
Yeah.
And so he learns about family and he ends up taking over Jabba the Hutt's job.
yeah, after.
Hey, spoiler. So, I mean, the thing is that they end up bringing the Mandalorian into the Book of Boba Fett. So now you got a time frame of when all this is going on. Because the Mandalorian, if they would have left it alone, could have been anywhere throughout time, space. I mean, yes, it would tie in with the Mandalorians on their planet.
Yeah.
But, yeah, Book of Boba Fett, they bring in Grogu. They bring in Jin, his name, Jin. Mando, there we go. And thank you, Jon Favreau, for doing this for us. I mean, he's doing a great job of writing and getting this out to us, which also leads back into Marvel movies because, he's happy. But I mean, Mark Hamill even makes a cameo. I can't say so much a cameo because it is Mark Hamill. It's just the younger version of him. So this is right after Return of the Jedi.
Nice.
Okay.
I haven't seen it.
I know.
But I like the concept of if Disney is trying to piece things in between, like the difference between the Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope is like 20 years, 25 years.
Yeah.
Well, they filled in some of that with Rogue One. They filled in some of that with Solo. If they're doing that now after between Return to the Jedi and The Force Awakens, which is like a 30-year gap of filling in the time period, I'm fine with that. I think that's a great thing that they should do to complete the record, complete the story.
So, yeah, I mean, they're filling in gaps here and there. And, I mean, it's just, like I say, it's just storyline. And it all ties in and can become a continuous flow.
All righty.
Yes, you have to do prequels and sequels and pre-prequels and.
All righty. So we don't want to get involved in this. We're going to do one last commercial break, and then I've got a special question for both of you.
All right.
One last commercial break.
Oh, yes, of course. Hot Pot Black, you don't worry about it. The good doctor will make sure that you are well taken care of this. All right, you have a lovely day. No, you cannot do that. No. Because if I told you once, I told you a million times, you cannot take a wax buffer to Quack's head. All right. I will talk to you later, sir. Goodbye. And now I can relax. Yes. Oh. Excuse me.
drive like you. Come get it all and buy with zero down and make no payments for 90 days. Advance Road Toyota. Now more than ever, right on the corner, right on the price. American Fastlane. Need an oil change?
Yes. I love Die Hard.
Heart and Souls Promotions, where nobody judges you, no matter how weird you are.
And we're back. We've got all our bills sufficiently paid. So I want to ask this question, and it's been much maligned on chats and movie reviews. So I'm going to talk about 7, 8, and 9. This is the post-quels, as they're sometimes called.
Okay.
The Force Awakens, Rise of Solo, and the one in the middle, I think, is called A New Hope. Yeah, A New Hope.
No.
Or no.
The last one would be Rise of Skywalker.
Right. Well, anyway, 8, whatever it's
The
called.
Last Jedi, Rise of Skywalker, Force Awakens.
8 annoyed the hell out of me. Anyway, J.J. Abrams directed 7 and 9. Rian Johnson directed 8.
Maybe
The consensus is that Rian Johnson hated 7 so much he tried to fix it, and then J.J. Abrams tried to fix what Rian Johnson messed up in 9. Do you guys see it that way? Like killing off Snoke in the second movie, totally just having him destroy the helmet for Ben Solo. He destroyed the helmet and then he built it back together in the third movie. Do you think those two guys didn't have the same vision, and that's why those movies turned out that way?
Yeah,
you can talk because I'm getting some thought process here. Because I mean, I didn't read the book, so I don't know how the books say it.
Okay,
but I think The Force Awakens I liked, although it was kind of hitting the same story beats that A New Hope hit. It was pretty kind of the same story, but I don't know. It was cool to see the old gang back together for one last time, so to speak.
right.
I think Rian Johnson tried to put his own spin on it, and it was met with a lot of backlash, which, to be fair, whoever was the guy that was going to kill off Luke Skywalker was going to get backlash from the fandom just because, I think they could have handled it in a more heroic manner. Here's this, he's the strongest Jedi out there, and yet he's a hermit on an island someplace drinking blue milk. It was kind of emasculating in a way, in my opinion. But
Jedi.
The third one, I think there was a lot of yes, J.J. Abrams directed it, but I think there was a lot of, executives saying, hey, we want to do this. Hey, we want to do that, because there's not really a lot of cohesion in the story. And they come out of nowhere, out of complete left field that, oh, it's the reborn emperor. He never really died. Well, where did this come from? Oh, So I think the whole 7, 8, 9 is kind of a train wreck, but, it's what Disney decided to do.
Couldn't tell you which one was that Han did die, and I think
he died in Force Awakens.
Yeah, 7. So
now that one, yeah, his death. He was trying to save his son. That was a heroic death, and Han died the hero's death, but as opposed to Luke's death, which was just he fades away. Which he's a Jedi, but yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that, and that's part of why I brought it up. You're right. The best way to describe it is a train wreck. It was too many different people trying to tell a single story, and when you have too many cooks in the kitchen, you get garbage.
Yeah.
I already seasoned that once. Well, I seasoned it. Oh,
yeah.
Okay. So, you have any other questions about any of this stuff since you didn't watch all of it?
I've seen all the Star Wars except the 2 on Disney Plus, and I'm not paying their price. So I'm fine. So Mark, let's give you a chance as the guest. Are there any questions you want to ask of us or pose for a discussion?
Favorite Star Trek series as opposed to the movies? Whether it be the original series, Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, Enterprise, Discovery, the Picard series.
I'll catch a lot of heat for this one. I enjoyed the Next Generation, but if I'm going to say the best Star Wars series from the standpoint of Star Trek, excuse me, I like Star Trek Next Generation. I like the original series. I liked Voyager.
Okay.
That one where I think Voyager's Janeway, correct?
Yep.
That's the one I like. They basically have to survive on their own because they're way out in the middle of nowhere and they all hate each other. That is an interesting dichotomy and storytelling way to go. And I'll always, when people say Picard's the better captain or Kirk's the better captain, I'm like, what about Janeway? She got those people back and they all hated each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's for my money is Voyager.
Asking me, I'm sorry, I haven't watched all the series.
All right.
I watched Next Generation, caught some of Deep Space Nine, and don't know if I caught any of Voyager. So
what's yours?
Deep Space Nine.
Okay. It is good. Deep Space Nine is very good.
Yeah. The Dominion War, the whole Prophet thing, all the Cisco. Captain Cisco.
All right. So now, if this didn't spark a discussion so that we can continue on with this for another series, I don't want to call it a series, another show, yeah. Sure. If this didn't spark some kind of conversation, hey, we're going to move over into DC versus Marvel.
That's right.
Okay? So, yeah, you give us something to talk about for Star Trek versus Star Wars, we'll come back and we'll talk about it again. If not, we're going to start covering some superheroes. How about that?
All right. Thank you for joining us.
I was going to ask him who his favorite character is.
We could definitely
Who's your favorite superhero?
Favorite superhero? Oh. DC, I would have to say Batman, because he's Batman. Of course he is. Marvel, I was always kind of intrigued by Gambit. You know, the guy from Louisiana slinging the cards, his kinetic energy powers.
Okay.
All right.
Nice.
Yours?
Well, for DC, I'm not a huge DC fan, But I agree, Batman is one of the few DC characters that actually has some tragedy in his life, so I enjoyed that. For Marvel, I've always been kind of a fan of the X-Men series, so Beast.
Okay.
Nice choice. And me, I'm not one to follow a true norm or anything like that. So my DC character would actually end up being Green Arrow. Hey, it's Batman, different city.
Okay.
Basically, I mean, it was just don't follow the norms. So you find something to, follow and fill in the gap. Like, well, Batman has this. Well, Oliver Queen had this too.
All right.
But he used a bow and arrow, okay? He didn't just have that.
All right.
But for Marvel, oh God, there are so many Marvel characters that you could follow. I mean, I never really thought that Wolverine was as followed as he was. So, I mean, if I followed a norm on that one, being the loner, out there trying to be good, but seen as a bad guy.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
All right. All right. So, unless you have something else, I think we've pretty well covered this one.
I think
Waiting for you to give comments, by the way.
Yes. Comment. Come on.
Like, comment, and subscribe, and all that.
Get some more shows going. Mark can come back and help us out some more.
That would be fun.
Right. So like it, share it, comment. All right. We're going to see you next time. Thanks.